3 days prior to Christmas, my girlfriend, Lee, abandoned me for a man who fabricated a story about his pretended baby keeping him captive. She justified it by labeling him a victim in need of help and insisted I wouldn't comprehend the situation. 8 months passed, and she sobbed over the phone to me at midnight, revealing every word he had told her was false. Now she wants me back. This is the narrative of Brendan, detailing how a master manipulator's deceptive victim act dismantled my family, leaving me uncertain if the woman I cherish deserves another opportunity. Allow me to transport you back to where it all began. I encountered Lee 6 years ago at a community event catering to single parents. I was a father of two from a previous relationship, Milo and Keegan, and was grappling with the demanding truth of raising them primarily on my own. Their mother had deserted us when they were toddlers, and I'd been managing solo parenting since then. Lee didn't have children of her own, but she possessed an instinctive charm with kids that captivated me instantly. She participated in the event, managing craft stations and conversing with children as if they were individuals rather than mere youngsters to control. We initiated a relationship a few months afterward, and within a year she had relocated to live with us. My sons admired her greatly. She assisted with their homework, attended soccer matches, familiarized herself with their preferred meals, and prepared them for special events. Despite not being their biological mother, she assumed that role with dedication that filled my heart in ways I hadn't known were feasible. Before we delve into today's narrative, I invite you to ponder something. Have you ever encountered someone who consistently portrays themselves as a victim? Their former partners were insane, their superiors unjust, everyone around them supposedly wronged them, and yet they never appeared to bear any responsibility. Psychologists term this the Davos response: deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. Studies indicate that 72% of those causing harm employ this very manipulative tactic when confronted. The intention is to create self-doubt in the true sufferer and portray them as the perpetrator. Today's account serves as a case study. Let's delve into it. We had discussed having a child together. It was something we mutually desired, a child that would be ours since conception. We explored options, discussed timings, even selected names during our late-night talks. However, my father fell ill and passed away after 3 months. The anguish overwhelmed me like a freight train. I struggled to maintain normalcy, let alone consider the idea of creating new life amidst such grief. Then, the pandemic occurred, trapping us all indoors, attempting to educate 2 children while working remotely, coping with loss without the conventional support systems. The topic of having a baby was pushed aside. The situation was simply too complex, carrying too much burden for all involved. Despite our stress, growing distance at times, and strain on our relationship, I believed we were managing, albeit uneasily. That foundation hadn't shown any signs of weakness prior, but the holiday season unfolded as usual. We adorned the tree with the kids, maintained our traditional practices amidst peculiar conditions. However, I couldn't help but notice that Lee seemed preoccupied. She was spending more time than typical on her phone, taking calls outside, returning home past the usual time from errands that normally took only 20 minutes. I inquired about it a few times, and she always provided an explanation, citing work stress or a friend going through hardship, assuring there was no cause for concern. 3 days before Christmas, after the children had retired, she sat me down to reveal her plans. She said she had encountered someone, a man named Travis, who was battling difficult circumstances. His ex-girlfriend allegedly trapped him with a pregnancy, and he was grappling with this situation. Moved by compassion, Lee felt compelled to assist him, to stand by him during this challenging phase. I recall the precise way the Christmas lights danced on her face as she spoke. For 5 years, my girlfriend had been a crucial part of my family, helping raise my children. Yet on that fateful day, she chose to depart, abandoning me for an unknown man she'd allegedly grown close to over months. I sought clarification: how they met, the duration of their connection, and the nature of it all, friendship or something more. Lee's responses were evasive, defensive. She claimed I wouldn't comprehend, asserting that Travis needed her in a manner I no longer did, hinting at our growing estrangement, admitting she hadn't known how to inform me. That very night, she packed and left. On Christmas Eve, I was compelled to explain to my children why Lee wasn't present, why the presents she had bought remained under the tree, as she wouldn't be joining us to unwrap them. I told them she had to assist a friend grappling with hardships, that at times, adults must confront difficult decisions. They were distraught and sorrowful, and I comforted them during their tears, even as my own heart fractured into fragments I couldn't collect. The subsequent months were some of the bleakest in my life. I continued with the routines of work and parenthood, but inside I felt empty. My friends and relatives offered support, yet I sensed they were growing weary of the repeated discussions. How many times can one dissect the same deception before everyone, including oneself, just wishes to move forward? In an attempt to keep things straightforward for the children's sake, I needed to establish some kind of arrangement with Lee, despite her not being their biological mother. She had been part of their lives for years, and severing ties entirely seemed unfair to them, regardless of my personal feelings. Thus, we communicated about schedules. She would occasionally take them for the weekends and call during school nights via video calls. It was an uncomfortable and painful situation, but we managed to make it work. Via these encounters, I began understanding more about Travis and the predicament Lee found herself in. Travis, 26 years old, was nearly 8 years younger than Lee. He held a part-time job as a personal trainer and resided in a compact apartment that Lee now assisted with payments. His former girlfriend had recently given birth, and Travis alleged she deliberately conceived to bind him to her. He portrayed himself as the victim of a manipulative woman who had wrecked his life. Lee wholeheartedly believed this account. She saw herself as his savior, the one who comprehended him when no one else did. However, that narrative of being a victim began crumbling nearly instantly. I was informed by a shared friend that Travis had narrated various versions of his story to different individuals. To some, he asserted he had consistently used protection, and the pregnancy was implausible. To others, he conceded they had been reckless, but emphasized she had pledged she was on birth control. The narrative fluctuated contingent on the listener, and what truly intrigued me was this. Travis declined to undergo a paternity test. His former partner persistently requested one to establish legal child support, but Travis continuously evaded it. He conveyed to Lee that his reason was to deny his ex any satisfaction from acknowledging his involvement. However, this explanation didn't appear credible upon closer inspection. During one of our discussions, I tentatively broached the subject with Lee, prompting a defensive response. She asserted that people were propagating rumors because they were envious that Travis had faced enough hardship without being gossiped about. However, as time elapsed, even Lee couldn't dismiss the discrepancies. Travis' ex was not the villain he had depicted. She was an ordinary woman struggling to raise a child, neither harassing him nor making excessive demands. Lee desired Travis to acknowledge their child and provide financially, but instead, he grew possessive of her time and relationships. The first major argument ensued when Travis learned Lee was still communicating with me. He insisted she cut all ties with me completely. No more visits with my children, no more messages, nothing. He labeled me as poisonous and manipulative in an attempt to regain access to her life. Lee attempted to clarify that she had obligations towards my sons and couldn't simply abandon them. Travis remained indifferent. He demanded absolute dominion, viewing anyone from Lee's past as a potential threat. I observed as Lee grew increasingly detached. She missed visits with my kids without reason. She became unresponsive for extended periods. During our rare conversations, she appeared weary, as if burdened by an unwanted load. Her friends expressed their concerns to me. They mentioned she ignored their calls as well, adding that Travis made her believe everyone was hostile towards them, implying their bond was unique and uncomprehended by others, typical manipulative strategies which Lee couldn't discern. A son named Crew arrived in April. Travis' former partner gave him the name. Surprisingly, Lee found herself caring for this child during the weekends when Travis had custody. My children met Crew on their visits to Lee. Milo and Keegan found him endearing. They wished to hold him and gift toys. For a short while, it seemed possible that this unusual setup could function. Though no longer together, we could maintain ties through the kids, perhaps forming an alternative kind of family despite deviating from our plans. However, Travis objected to this arrangement too. He started causing issues every time my children were meant to visit. Emergencies needing Lee's attention, allegations of Crew being ill and thus avoiding other kids, indirectly critical comments suggesting Lee overextended herself, required to reconsider her true priorities. Manipulation intensified, using Crew as a tool to exert pressure, threatening the relationship if Lee didn't meet escalating unreasonable demands. Monitoring her phone, grilling her about every message and call, accusing her of still being in love with me. I observed Lee gradually losing freedom from afar. She skipped visits with my children without reason. She ignored messages for extended periods. Our interactions were strained, as if she bore a burden too heavy to discard. The tipping point occurred approximately 8 months after Crew's birth. One late night, I received a call from Lee, sobbing uncontrollably that I could barely make out her words. She disclosed that she had uncovered the real facts about Travis, including his deceit and manipulation. The baby trap narrative was entirely fabricated. During an argument, Travis acknowledged this, flaunting it casually. He wasn't trapped. Instead, he had been unfaithful to his former partner with several women. When the woman got pregnant, he abandoned her without any repercussions. She hadn't deceived him. He merely refused to acknowledge his mistakes. He invented the victim narrative to gain sympathy, manipulating women like Lee into caring for him. Furthermore, it was revealed that Travis had doubts about Crew being his biological son. From the start, he evaded the paternity test because the timing didn't align, and he wanted to avoid knowing the truth. If Crew were indeed his, he'd be obligated to pay child support. If Crew wasn't his, he would lose the sympathy story he had been exploiting. Lee had forsaken all for a man whose existence was predicated on deceit. She inquired if we could confer. I agreed, though within me yearned to decline, to allow her to grapple alone with the chaos she had engendered. The following day, we convened at a coffee house. Her visage mirrored one who had endured sleepless nights for weeks. She expressed remorse for everything, for vanishing, for her departure's manner, for opting for Travis over our kinship, for the distress she had inflicted. She acknowledged if redemption could never be mine, yet desired me to comprehend her newfound recognition of error. I found myself at a loss for words. Furious and wounded emotions, coupled with an unsettling glimmer of anticipation, contended for dominance within me. She expressed her intention to recommence, to return, to revive our family bond, to amend things. She had severed all links with Travis, altered her contact information, blocked him from every platform. She wished to close that chapter and rekindle what we once shared. A part of me yearned to respond affirmatively, to return to the familiarity of our past, to restore my kid's missing parent, to end my solitude. Yet another portion reminded me of standing before the Christmas tree, recollecting the conversation where I had to explain to my children why their cherished parent wouldn't return home. I informed her that I needed time to reflect. She agreed. It's been 3 months since then. We've been engaged in what seems like a reconciliation process. Proceeding cautiously, rebuilding trust, assessing if our relationship can truly recover or if too much harm has occurred. The journey hasn't been simple. Travis didn't handle Lee's departure amicably. He attempted to appear at places he believed she would be, employed friends to monitor her, and received updates. He used false accounts to message, left notes on her car, and endeavored in every way possible to re-establish contact. As a result, we have needed to exercise caution about our outings and public shares. The relentless watchfulness is overwhelming, exacerbating an already precarious circumstance. Unforeseen meetings only compound the situation. Residing in a city neither too large nor too small, we're not enclosed within a familiar circle, yet not hidden away entirely. Acquaintances who are cognizant of Lee and Travis' romantic history perceive us together, raising queries. They inquire about Travis, the baby, and the circumstances that led to our current state. Lee manages the situation with poise, providing vague explanations about the dissolution of their relationship. However, I stand there feeling uneasy and implicated, as though I'm unwillingly cast in a narrative I never consented to be a part of. The most challenging aspect is the ambiguity. Each day, I ponder whether Lee will alter her decision, if the allure of another life might prove too powerful, leading her to believe that the turmoil and intricacies aren't worth the investment in rebuilding with me. Furthermore, I grapple with my own emotions concerning the past. Am I foolish for granting her a second chance? Am I allowing my longing for family reconciliation to skew my perception of what's truly beneficial? My friends and family offer conflicting views on the matter, and their opinions don't always align with my decisions. Some believe I should have severed ties permanently due to Lee's actions, considering them unforgivable, while others think it's possible for relationships to recover if both parties are genuinely committed. They observe Lee's efforts towards redemption and hold on to the hope that reconciliation is attainable. I find myself wavering between these contrasting viewpoints, sometimes in a matter of hours or even minutes. The one consistent thought is this: I was in love with her before, I am still in love with her despite the added layers of pain, mistrust, and fear. Is it not the query whether love is present, but rather if love can construct something enduring when the base has been so extensively fractured? Travis' deceit eventually came back to haunt him. Truth, in its persistent nature, always rises, regardless of how diligently you attempt to conceal it. He managed to insinuate himself into my girlfriend's life, dismantled the family we had established, and ultimately lost everything he was striving to keep. His ex eventually got a paternity test ordered by the court. It turned out that Crew was indeed his son. Now he is obligated to pay child support that he had been evading for over a year. Moreover, his reputation as a manipulator has become widely known within our social circles. Women now caution each other about him. He has ultimately transformed into what he repeatedly accused his ex of being, someone who experiences repercussions due to their own decisions. I don't find solace in that situation, only fatigue, just a weary acknowledgement that so much anguish might have been spared if truth had been the foundation instead of deceit. Once more, the holiday season approaches, marking a year since the night everything shifted. Lee and I, along with our children, are arranging to celebrate together, attempting to craft fresh memories that can coexist with the painful ones rather than replacing them. We're not erasing them. Instead, we're constructing something different over the top. When my kids inquire if Lee will stay this time, I tell them I hope so. I cannot vow eternity because I've come to understand that it's not mine to pledge. However, I can assure them that we're all striving, that the adults in their lives are giving their best despite its imperfections and uncertainties. That should suffice for now. I'm no longer the person I was before this ordeal. The previous incarnation of me, the one who trusted effortlessly and held faith in the endurance of love, has vanished somewhere along the way. Perhaps the individual transforming is gaining strength, becoming more self-aware about personal needs, and improving at establishing boundaries and demanding respect. Alternatively, this could be a self-deception, a preferable narrative compared to admitting ongoing confusion. I commenced therapy, focusing on relationship trauma and trust issues, which provided insights into the complexities of reconciliation as a continuous process rather than a one-time choice. This journey demands continual self-examination concerning personal needs and their fulfillment. Furthermore, it revealed that my persistent apprehension about Lee departing once more is an issue I must address regardless of her actions. Such anxiety, if neglected, can contaminate even healthy relationships. Instead, I need to learn to focus on what we're creating now, rather than always preparing for potential collapse. This is a continuous endeavor. Everything is a continual effort. Essentially, what I yearn for people to comprehend is that these circumstances are intricate and complex. The individual causing pain might also be the one deeply cherished. Deciding whether to stay or leave isn't always straightforward. At times, you select a path that appears questionable to others due to its alignment with your inner feelings, and hope that your intuition guides you towards something beneficial. I'm unsure if Lee and I will succeed. I'm uncertain if the harm can genuinely be healed or if we're merely postponing an impending separation. However, what I am certain of is that today, I'm opting to persevere. I'm choosing to have faith in the potential for transformation, that errors need not permanently brand us, and that the family constructed together is worth battling for even when battles are grueling. To anyone enduring a similar predicament, please understand you aren't isolated. Such intricate, tangled circumstances are more prevalent than one would think. We seldom discuss them because they don't conform to tidy tales of heroes and villains, conclusive endings, and flawless resolutions. Life is messier than that. True healing may take longer than expected, but it can happen. I must believe it is possible. Otherwise, why are we here? Thank you for listening to my narrative, for providing a space for it. If you find yourself in the midst of your own complex circumstances, I hope you discover the clarity and resilience necessary to determine what's best for you. At times, that means leaving at others, staying, and sometimes it means enduring the uncertainty until the path forward becomes clear. Wherever you are in this journey, know that I see you and am cheering you on. Now let me hear your thoughts. Should Brendan have taken Lee back, or was it a pending mistake? Share your insights in the comments below. I'm genuinely intrigued to hear your opinions. If my story held your attention until the end, please show some appreciation by hitting like. It only takes a second and assists more individuals in discovering these videos. And if you haven't subscribed yet, why wait? Become a part of our community. I look forward to meeting you in the following narrative.